Welcome back to my review series of Izayo's weapon packs. In the last two videos we covered the vanilla expansion weapons pack and the 5.56 weapons pack. And today we're covering the 45 ACP weapons pack and the 30.06 weapons pack. If you like what you see, you can download them from the link in the description, and if you enjoy today's video, be sure to drop a like. It's guaranteed to extend your lifespan by 5 years. Let's get into this. We'll cover the weapon pack separately, so first let's do the 45 ACP weapons pack. The 45 ACP pack adds 4 new ammo types. Normal 45 ACP, overloaded 45 ACP, which does 33% more damage but costs more to craft and will make your gun degrade faster while ignoring 20% of armor. We also have 45 ACP AP, which costs more than basic ammo and also requiring iron, but it also does 10% more damage and ignores 50% of armor while penetrating an additional enemy, but it does also degrade your weapon faster. And finally, the enhanced 45 ACP, which does 66% more damage, ignores 70% of armor, penetrates 2 targets, and inflicts bleeding. But unfortunately, you cannot craft this ammo, and it is only used in a unique legendary weapon added by this pack that we'll talk about later. But onto the guns. This pack comes with 4 SMGs and 4 pistols. Let's start with the pistols. First is the Webley 45. This is a tier 0 gun, so you'll find it alongside the pipe guns in loot. It's very similar to the pipe pistol, but it does a lot more damage. It can have up to 5 mod slots, but as you would probably expect, it's not a particularly moddable weapon. I mean, they weren't exactly thinking about laser sights, reflex sights, and suppressors for the revolvers in 1915, so that's to be expected. It does look pretty good and it sounds pretty good, and it does have that absolutely awful to use feeling that you expect from this gun and all other British weapons. I mean, there's a reason we just use American guns for our wars. I mean, we would ask the Germans, but it's usually them we're using them on, but that would be kind of awkward. Also at tier 0 we have the Mac 10. It's like a better version of the pipe machine gun, but it can't have sights or scopes. But it does come with a suppressor, and it, like all the SMGs in this mod, cannot use the 45 overloaded ammo. Another very simple weapon here, looks pretty good, sounds pretty good. It does have some weird recoil, but it's an early game gun anyway, you probably won't be using it for long. Moving up to tier 1, which means you'll find it at the same time as the AK-47 or the 9mm pistol, we have the weapon of patriotism itself, the Colt M1911. And as we all obviously know, Jesus is a truck-driving, meat-eating, rooting-tooting, red-blooded American, and if he needed a gun, he'd use this one. It's in the Bible, trust me, I checked. Statistically, this is basically a better version of the 9mm pistol. It's one of my favourite guns in this pack, because it's so iconic I can just make so many references when I kill things.
You should try this.
A really big fucking hole coming right up.
But we can't expect God to do all the work.
Over my dead body.
You get the point. It's a 1911, I probably don't need to explain it to many of you. Speaking of guns I probably don't have to explain, we also have the Thompson, another tier 1 gun similar to the SMG5, but it is worse in all stats. It has a 20 round magazine, or you can use a 40 round drum magazine, which actually does change the model of the gun. Now do be warned, it kind of almost crashes my game every time I put that mod on the gun, but hey, that's the price we pay for a drum magazine on our Thompson. You can also mod this gun in such a way that it'll give every gun nut who sees it a brain hemorrhage, which I consider a big bonus. As usual, this looks good and sounds good. Let's move on to the next one. We have the tier 2 MK23 SOCOM. This is statistically very similar to the M1911, but it has slightly better stats across the board except for on damage, so it's kind of just a flavor choice if you prefer this kind of gun. I really like this one, it has a nice modern look, so I would definitely be using this with like a laser sight or something. Also at tier 2 we have the SMP-X. This is designed to essentially just be a 45 version of the base game's SMG, and as a result is a statistical upgrade in all departments. On top of all of that, the SMP-X doesn't make me want to rip out my eyes. The base game SMG has a spoon attached to it, and is covered in random drawings, and what is that sight? Awful. The SMP-X however is much cleaner and nicer. The last pistol we have is the Eagle 6, which is a unique tier 3 variant of the M1911. To craft it, you'll need to loot the 4 weapon parts, and then when you do craft it, it will always be level 6. Now, as you can probably expect, those parts are pretty rare, but if you can get one of these, it's extremely good. It's got even better stats than the Desert Vulture, which is currently the strongest pistol in the game. It does come with a scope, but you can actually put a reflex sight on top of the scope and use that, or replace the base scope with a vanilla scope. It has a nice purple pink grip and a darker metal colour than the base 45. Unfortunately, or probably fortunately for balance reasons, this weapon can only use the 45 enhanced ammo, which is very rare and non-craftable. So use your shots wisely with this gun. The last SMG we have here is the HK-UMP, another favourite of mine. This is another pure upgrade to the SMG5, and it is a tier 3 naturally. I really don't have much to say about these guns because they're so obvious and iconic, they really speak for themselves for the most part. They look clean, they sound good, and are fairly well balanced. And if you're familiar with basically any first person shooter that came out in the past decade, you probably know about these guns. So it's really nice to finally have them in 7 Days to Die, and it doesn't hurt that they have a clean aesthetic instead of the junk aesthetic. So that's all for the 45 ACP pack. They don't have a skill book that they rely on, but they don't really need one either. They're quite powerful on their own, and they're governed by the Gunslinger perk in agility. They can all be crafted, looted, or purchased and fit into your game quite nicely. So let's move on to the 30-06 weapons pack. Now unfortunately all of the weapons in the 30-06 pack are trader only, or maybe that is fortunate because they are extremely powerful. But it's not too bad because I think it keeps them rare, which I think is a good thing because 1, they're very old weapons, and 2, they're very powerful. As you can see, level 6 variants of these weapons would be pretty expensive to buy. How good are they? Well, let's go through them. First we have the 30-06 lever action rifle. The lever action rifle is a straight up upgrade of the base game's lever action rifle. It does fire slightly slower though. As a nice touch, you can actually use the tube extender mod to give it more ammo capacity. I think it looks pretty nice, but something seems slightly weird about it, but at the very least I can say it's significantly better looking than whatever this is. I think this model looks a lot better and sounds a lot better. And it does a lot more damage, so if you're really into lever action rifles, this will be more viable than the base game. The next thing we have is the M1 Garand, and before you ask, yes. This thing is kind of OP, doing even more damage than the sniper rifle, but it's limited in its modability, although you can equip a magazine extender on it oddly enough, but it still has less magazine capacity than the sniper rifle, so that balances it out quite a bit. The gun looks pretty good and sounds pretty good. One minor issue is that you don't hold it correctly in third person, but honestly most of you will never see your character in third person anyway. And look, it does the sound, what more do you want? And both of those weapons are governed by the Deadeye perk in the perception tree. Onto the next weapons, we have the Browning automatic rifle. It's statistically comparable to the tactical assault rifle, but it does a little bit more damage and is longer range. It's not particularly moddable, being another very old weapon, but it can have enough mods to improve it fully at least. It looks solid if a little lower detail than all the other weapons, and it sounds pretty good and should be another comfortable addition to your game. The last gun we're covering is the Browning heavy machine gun, very similar to the M60 but it does more damage. It does get very smoky when you fire it though, as you would probably expect, and again it's not particularly moddable. But hey, if you want this gun specifically, it will serve you very well, and it's another good looking and good sounding gun. Although I do think I would prefer the melee from the 5.56 weapons pack over this. Both of these guns use the machine gunner perk for damage, and all 4 of these guns use the 30-06 ammo type, which is added by this mod, and is a very expensive type of ammo requiring 5 gunpowder as well as iron to craft. You can also get 30-06 steel core, which uses more bullet tips and more iron, to ignore 80% of armor and penetrate 5 targets, and I think that's without the penetrator perk, so that is quite strong. And that was the last of all the weapon packs by Izayo. What do you think of them if you've watched all the videos? I think after playing around with all 4 of the packs, I'd give them a collective solid 9.5 out of 10. They add a lot of much needed weapon variety to the game. They're not terribly overpowered, some of them are kind of like really good, but it's usually balanced in some way. And of course I would say pretty much 90% of them look amazing and sound amazing. There's a couple of weird looking ones, but hey, they're no worse than what's in the game already. If you missed the other 2 videos I did on the other 2 packs, be sure to check them out here. And thank you to my channel members and patrons for making this video possible, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.